Welcome to the Peoria Art Guild's newest exhibit. It's Knyame Mason's Historical Consequences. And we have the artist here. We're going to do a gallery talk with him as we go around. Also, he was formerly known as Nana Echo. And we call him Eugene. So if I call him Eugene, that's what we're calling him. Eugene came to Peoria through Bradley University. He was a graduate student when I was there, and has remained and has taught at Bradley, has taught for the museum as well as teaching here. And we decided on historical consequences because the subject for this exhibition are all historical things. We have a series of prints that he did focusing on the apostles during biblical times. We have a large painting that he has completed in 2 years that focuses on slavery in America in the 400 years since slavery began. We also have a lot of images that come from his own Ghana culture and history. And we'll be talking about all of those. So let's start though with, this is the newest painting that you just completed, 2020 Broken Thoughts. And can you first describe a little bit about your style?
The style is a pointillist technique, and I enjoy texture and color, so that's what I use a lot. And this is the latest painting I did before the show, so it's about the COVID experience. So I started this painting, I think around May last year during the shutdown. So I was trying to get my mind and my thoughts around the whole experience. So this, I have two figures in there.
Mm-hmm. And one that is masked.
Yep, and then one figure masked down here. And if you guys remember when the virus was identified, yeah, we didn't know much about it. So I have Edinkra symbols representing the virus. Now, so here it's not that obvious, and as it
arcs around,
yep, it becomes more vivid. So, and during the time we were waiting for it to peak. People were dying and we were waiting for it to peak. So that's what this figure is pointing at. When is it going to peak? So that's that. And then the rooster in my painting always represents time. And everything in the human space is dark colored because that was a human experience. Nature was thriving. Every other thing was thriving apart from humans. We were scared and hidden.
It was a dark moment.
Yeah. So.
That's great. Well, and we will see some of these images and symbols that you've represented in most of your paintings, in especially 400 years of history. Here's one of the 3 sets of prints that Knyame has completed, and these are all the apostles, and I got to get the title right, Visions of the Apostle. And I think what's so wonderful is that each grouping that you did, the variation for each edition was somewhat different. This one you've chine-collated in wonderful fabric that's, I have to tell you, is very African. Yeah. It's got the red and the green and the black, and it's just so wonderful. But all of them also have gold leaf put in them. And I assume that that's to symbolize the halo, the sacredness of them, I guess. And how did you start these? Why don't we go back to the exhibition?
So the fabric is fabric from Ghana. So this is actual fabric I brought from Ghana, and I printed one of my relief prints over it and then use it in this collage. Now the whole idea is when I read about the apostles, I have an image of how each of them looked like, even though I'm not referring to the existing pictorial representation of them, but how I vision them. Now, these are actual people posed in here, but they had no idea I was going to use them. So these are unsuspecting models that I took pictures of, and as I observed the images, like I I associated them with the particular apostles. So like Peter is the only one who has a hand or other parts of the body in there because we know Peter. So
That's
Yeah.
great. Well, now we're coming to one, what I always call your monumental piece. And this is 400 years of history, which represents the 400 years that Africans were sent to the United States as slaves. And this is an incredible piece, and I believe it took you 2 years, didn't it?
about a year and a half.
About a year and a half to complete. But it is so, the images are so tightly woven, but there's so much symbolism and so much color that it's an experience actually to just view it. Do you want to explain some of the imagery?
Yeah, so in 2019, Ghana was celebrating like the 400 year since the start of the transatlantic slave trade. So there was a big thing. They opened the borders to all those in the diaspora, free visas, just come see the motherland. That was the whole idea. So during that time, I started reflecting on this transatlantic slave trade. So with this, it starts with the first passage, the middle passage, and the final passage I did not put in here. That's in a different painting. So with this transatlantic slave trade, the middle passage, they got slaves from Africa, brought them to America, to goods to Europe, some goods to Africa to trade. So this is
The triangle,
the
so to speak.
triangle,
Yep.
yep. And then I focused on the people left behind, those who were deprived of their brothers, their mothers, their parents. Now those are these figures. What emotional state they were in, you know. you are
Well, and I
there-
think that that's really particularly true of this one. It's
Yes.
in kind of the fetal position, in almost an egg-like form
Yes,
too.
yes. So you lose a parent, you lose a sibling, you lose a friend. You're just there, what's going on? And then there's the ship. Now this is the actual representation of a slave ship, the common image we see, but this is the end of it. And it's in our space because we are in America, so it's in our space. And we have the slaves laid on there. Now,
And I think it's so important that people notice that each one of these figures, they laid them side by side. There's
Sides.
another artist, Sanford Figures, who's done a lotus picture, and it is that exact same. It is how they could pack as many people as they
many,
possibly
yep.
could in the bow of the ship.
and during the voyage, when things went bad, when there was outbreak of diseases, they just threw people off board. Now this yellow figure represents those who were lost at sea, slaves that were thrown or drowned at sea. Now, in here, it depends on how you play with the light, but
Yes.
there's my hand holding a bird in here, and then it's also on the other side. But yeah, like you can see my hand, there's a bird in here, holding a bird. Now there's this canoe. I put this canoe there because they came with huge ships, and there was no way Africans could pursue the captors with canoes. So it's a broken canoe, it's useless. And I have this figure up here.
Yeah, I don't know if people can see it, but we have this figure like you have lying on the
Yep,
floor
on the
here.
floor,
But
yep.
here, it comes like this with its arm draped down.
Yep, with the olive branch offering healing. Because 400 years, there was the reflection, all that has transpired, and basically we need closure. So the divine figure is offering healing. Now, so the final passage will be the branding of the slaves, where they were taken from the boats to the plantations, and then they were branded by whoever bought them. So these are existing or brands that existed. And
Go ahead.
when I think of the whole experience, it's only if you dehumanize the African that you can do this to them. So that's why I put this symbol here. It's also on that side, and there's a time.
And we also have the rooster
Time.
here,
Yep.
again, passing times. This is almost a window or a doorway that goes deep into the painting.
So in Ghana, along the coast, we have all the forts and castles where they kept the slaves till they put them on ships. Now, if you go into a castle, that's basically the experience. Multiple doorways, there's no way you can find your way back out. So I have multiple doorways in here. And then the lighthouse usually represents what? Hope.
Hope and direction.
Direction. But I put it here reflecting on the slave's experience. You know, you are taken into slavery. If you see a lighthouse, it's not hope, you know. If you're going back home and you see a lighthouse, that's hope. But if you're being taken into slavery and you see a lighthouse, it's a different experience. So that's with that. And I have waves in the surrounding the ship.
It's truly a masterpiece. It really is, Eugene. And we're gonna come down to this next painting, and this is one of a series that you did with graduate students at Bradley.
Yeah.
And this is with Hattie Lee. And I thought what was so interesting is that Hattie has a background of having Cherokee blood in her lineage. And then you have Ghana. So both of you are drawing upon symbols and cultural motifs, possibly, that were meaningful to you, but they ended up creating this wonderfully colorful, almost woven painting.
So this started out as a collaboration with Hattie. Now, this was her first collaboration, so it was a unique experience for her. So the idea was, you start a painting, when you get to a point, you hand it over to the next artist, they put theirs or add theirs to it. So it's more like you trust somebody with your work, but you can't say anything about what you do to it. So that was the whole experience. So she gave me her painting, and then I superimposed mine over it, and I tried to keep most of her visual expression in there. And I have two, like John said, I have two figures here, Native American and African. So, and then there's the stool and the spider. The title is Anansi was on the stool before God made the earth. We have a proverb in Ghana that says Anansi was on the stool before God made. Now, Anansi in our culture is like the wisest creature. We have stories about Anansi. So that's Anansi on the stool before God created the earth. Now, most of the time, people forget native or traditional cultures has survived like time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just didn't happen. It's gone through time. So it's been there before Western experience. That's the whole point.
I think the other thing that's so incredible about this is that you have maintained your pointillistic approach to filling in the shapes, in particular, and the symbols. She has these little hash marks here, and it's very similar to what she does when she does any of her fiber art. She's done quilts, and she's done some woolen panels and things like that. And the stitchery is represented in the painting through the exact same mark making. I find that really fascinating. I really do. Now, this is another one of the Apostle series where you, again, a variation of the same edition. And this one started, though, as a project that you did with your children.
Yep, so it started as a collaboration. We did 4 apostles, and that was the beginning of the whole series. So after that, I decided, well, why not finish it? So I came up with all 12. And with this, I have holograph background, and I have the maps, and I have some colors all collaged together. So,
and again, you maintain this idea. Do you call them points or dots?
Dots.
Dots. That have created both the background as well as the foreground.
Yep.
And so it's a wonderful combination. And again, incorporating, because they're sacred individuals that we have the halo that is been gilded with gold leaf. So it really is just, they're just amazing. Here's a painting that I recognize the silhouette because it's yours, I believe.
Yeah.
This is the Storyteller, and this is a painting that you had exhibited at one time at the museum. And again, can you just talk about it? I mean, we see the figures and all this, but what does the story mean to you?
So this is a self-portrait. So I'm the storyteller. That's basically how I work. My paintings are narratives. So I come up with a story and then I paint them. Now, this is depicting the process I go through. I get multiple ideas, but they just come and go. That's why I have the figures coming in and going out. And then there's just the one idea that catches fire, and I run with it. Now, this is an Edinkra symbol. It's Peja. Peja means strike fire. So it symbolizes like the idea that catches fire. So, yeah, so this is a self-portrait, and then me, the way I work.
And do you block out the color first, or does the color start to just evolve as the story changes, I guess?
Well, yes, it evolves, and I don't think in color. I think in the story, and then I paint. So as I go on, the color theory just comes in, and I apply it. Yeah.
Well, I think that the other thing that always has amazed me is that the Inuits in Canada and Alaska use this pointillistic, as well as the in Australia
yeah.
with the Aborigine. And it just amazes me because, you know, American art is really based on European art. So we think more of the very strong stroke work of like the Impressionists. And we don't think so much in the little dots and dots and building up the surface, because it just is, it's amazing. And I know it takes you quite a while, but at the same time, how do you know when it's finished?
When I enjoy it.
When you enjoy it?
Yep.
Good answer, good answer. Here we have a small work on paper, which is, well, it started out as a print, and then you have, again, did a little variation with going in with watercolor and water mixed media, and covered it. And we have another one that's very similar to this, where you have a group of individuals, and it appears we're looking down on them, almost.
So a rooster at sunset, I have 3 in a series, and it's about the end of one's life. Yeah. So there's looking down, more like looking down at the grave, you know. Yeah. So, and then there's the Edinkra symbol, ladder of death, you know.
Which people like, well, and like George O'Keeffe has included ladders in her work. Joan Miro has also. So it is a universal symbol of escaping to the afterlife and everything. This is one of my favorite projects that you were working on. These are editions of flags, and is it Fante? Fante flags. And you are a Fante.
Yeah.
So can you explain, there's 47 of them, I know you've done over 50, like 57 of them, but can you explain some of what's going on and how we can tell when they were born, shall we say?
Okay. So these are, the designs are original Asafo flags. I'm a Fanti, and this is the artwork made by my people. Now, these are flags that when Fantis are on the coast, so we encountered the white man first. So we were influenced more than any other tribe in Ghana. So even our names, like my name, Maison, you know, it's not
Comes
African.
from the English colonization.
Yeah, so the encounter we adopted flags. So Asafo is more like a militia group. So they also needed flags, just like Western armies. So they developed flags, and they are different militias. And these flags are what they use to communicate or in their rivalry. So these are all depicting, well, rivalry between different Asafo groups. Now, I copied the exact flags, but on different backgrounds. Now, the background is an existing a painting I did.
Another collaboration that you did.
With Backspace. So we made a painting, we painted both sides. In the show, audience were allowed to cut pieces of any part of the painting they like to take home. So the leftovers I collected to make these drawings over them. Now these drawings are these flags are dated based on the flag in the corner of the drawing. So if it's a Union Jack, then it means it's before independence. If it's a Ghana flag, then it means it was made, the original flag was made after independence. So.
It's great, and I love the idea that, and you've shown them this way before, but by attaching them to a piece of fabric, it's just wonderful. And these are large flags. They're just like the American flag, or actually I kind of liken them to the universities when they come, like in a football game, they all come out with these huge flags, and it represents that community. And I see that each one of these represents a different time within the same community.
Yes.
I think that's really strong. And speaking of the Fonte and the flags and everything, this actually represents part of a flag, doesn't it?
Yes. So this, I have two paintings in here. I enjoy painting over either old works or other people's paintings. That's how come it's easy to collaborate with Hardy. So, yeah. So the first painting is an American flag. So if you can see the white stars. So there's the blue and then the white stars and then the red and white bands down there. Now, it didn't feel complete, so I painted a second painting over it. So I have the old figures down there, and then I have these new figures, and it's ancestors of ancient places. I have the main figure with little figures, stick figures in there depicting that we are not just us, we are made up of a whole group of people in our past. So it's not just me being me, no. I have my parents, my grandparents, their grandparents, it just keeps going back. So I'm not just Knyame Maison, So that's with this, we consist of a whole
multi-generational. Yep. And then we have these two. The top one is Flight, and this bottom one is the Rooster Sunset. Again, you changed the palette completely. It's much more vibrant and purplish and red, and has a lot more of the bright colors as opposed to some of the muted.
Because different cultures look at the end of life differently, so.
But you do still have the ladder here, you can see, and the same figures there. Now, what is the meaning of these? We have a bird here, obviously, with the man riding it. I don't know what he's doing. And then this man, but he's almost in a teardrop. And then we have this object down here.
So if you see this figure in any painting, that's me. That's how I represent myself in my works. So it's Flight. It's just me taking on a ride, and this person is pointing, like, look at a human in flight, This is just for aesthetic purposes.
and again, though, when you look closely at this, there was a print underneath, and then you built up this, and I love the negative dots that you did. What did you use to do that?
An eraser, electric eraser
wow.
Take out. So,
No, it's fabulous, fabulous. And then we have the last of the series of the apostles. This one you included Judas, And if no one can figure out, it's the one, he actually did print the plate,
Yeah.
but there is the absence of that individual. And these are done on maps, aren't they?
Yes, I
And-
have old maps.
And the holes that you put in here are very definite. Can you explain what some of those, why the holes are different on each one?
Well, I started out giving the apostles numbers, like symbolic numbers. So that's why they vary. And I was just playing around with dots and numbers. Yeah. And if you look closely, you can see the embossment of textures
Yes.
on the white. So some of them,
Yeah.
you can see it in cross
It's really one of those
embossed in there. Yeah.
Things that we need to experience in
So-
person. And then the very last one is this little Mate Massey. Again, dissected it.
Yeah. So it's an Idinkra symbol. It looks more like this is partial of the Idinkra symbol. I played around with it to come up with all the textures and all that. Matimesi is, that's the name of the symbol. It means that which I hear, I keep to myself. Yeah. It's a symbol for wisdom. So, yeah.
Great, and this is a lino cut, so this
Yeah.
is truly the only pure print that you
Yes,
have not
yeah.
altered,
And
except
this-
for cutting it.
This is the print that I printed over the fabric I used in the apostles.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Great. Well, this is the last week of the exhibition. We will be closing on Thursday, the 1st of April. But please, if you have time on Wednesday or even the first part of Thursday, please come down and see it. The Art Guild is open from Tuesday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and by appointment. So we'd be more than happy to give you an appointment tour. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Eugene.
Thank